Hey everyone, this is Mia Horror Stories, and the title of today's horror story is Someone Airdropped Me a Photo of Myself Sleeping. For your comfort, the screen will stay black throughout the video, so you can relax without strain and just focus on the story. Make sure you stick around until the end. Sometimes the last few moments are the ones that stay with you the longest. The first thing that felt wrong was how normal everything else looked. I was wedged into a molded plastic chair at gate B12 with my backpack between my ankles and a paper cup of coffee, slowly turning lukewarm in my hands. Across from me, a kid in a puffy jacket dragged the wheels of his suitcase over the same 2 floor tiles again and again, clack, clack, like he was testing whether the universe would finally crack open and give him something different. Behind me, a floor buffer whined in a steady loop, the kind of sound that burrows into your skull without you noticing. An overhead announcement hiccuped through the speaker system, half swallowed by the terminal's cavernous acoustics. It smelled like cinnamon pretzels and jet fuel, and that weird sterile cleaner note you only get in airports. My phone buzzed on my thigh. I glanced down, expecting my boarding group. Instead, AirDrop, IMG 4839 from B12 iPhone. I blinked like that would change what I was seeing. AirDrop requests happen sometimes in crowded places, people sharing photos from a bachelor party, or a bored teenager trying to send memes to strangers. Annoying, but explainable. Still, the file name stopped me. I wasn't sure why. A number string, a JPEG, no message, just a file. The preview didn't show, just the generic thumbnail. I could either decline or accept. I tilted my screen away from the aisle, more out of instinct than logic. My thumb hovered. The floor buffer's whine rose and fell as it passed behind me, and somewhere a man laughed too loudly at something on his laptop. I hit decline. A second later, another buzz. AirDrop, IMG 4840 from B12 iPhone OK. I sat up straighter and looked around like the culprit would be obvious. Someone grinning at me, someone making eye contact and waiting for my reaction. The people nearest me were performing their usual airport rituals, pretending to work, pretending to sleep, pretending not to be the kind of person who gets stuck in an airport on a Tuesday night. My own reflection caught in the black glass of the boarded-up Hudson News storefront. Tired eyes, stubble that didn't commit to being a beard. A hoodie-eyed slept in the night before. I'm not a paranoid person, not in the fun way where you think every coincidence is a message meant for you. But I do have this private habit of rehearsing worst-case scenarios when my brain doesn't have anything useful to do. It's not even dramatic stuff. It's mundane disaster. Lost wallet. Canceled flight. Someone stealing my laptop because I took my eyes off it for 30 seconds. I'm good at seeing the weak points in my own day and then poking them until they bruise. That's the flaw, if you want to call it that. I can't always leave things alone. The phone buzzed again before I could decide what to do about the second request. AirDrop. Sleeping. JPG from B12 iPhone. That one wasn't default. That one felt chosen. I stood slow, like I'd dropped something and didn't want to spook anyone. My backpack strap creaked as I pulled it over my shoulder. I scanned the seats in a wider circle, 2 rows, 3 rows, the cluster by the charging station. Nothing. No one looking at me. No one even looking up. I started walking toward the windows, because at least there I could see the whole gate area reflected behind me. The carpet muffled my steps. My coffee sloshed against the lid. The request stayed on my screen, waiting. At the windows, the tarmac was a gray-black expanse dotted with orange cones and slow-moving vehicles with blinking lights. A plane sat parked like a sleeping animal, its belly lit from beneath. My reflection floated over the glass, and behind it, the gate, chairs, and bodies arranged in little islands. Another buzz. AirDrop. IMG 4841 from B12 iPhone. I exhaled through my nose. It came out like a laugh I didn't mean. "Hey," a voice said, close enough that I felt it in my shoulder before I turned. A woman had stepped up beside me, not right beside, but close in that polite airport way where you can talk without leaning. She wore a navy coat and had a lanyard tucked into her pocket like she'd yanked it off after work. She held her phone in one hand, and her other hand was wrapped around a bottle of water with the label peeled halfway off. "You look like you just got texted something awful," she said, not unkindly. I hesitated, then angled my screen a few degrees so she could see the repeated AirDrop banner stack. Her eyebrows lifted. "Oh, that. Yeah," I said. "You ever get that?" "Sometimes," she said. "We'll send stuff. Usually dumb." "This doesn't feel dumb," I said, and immediately wished I hadn't phrased it that way. She studied my face, then the gate behind us. "Who does it say it's from?" "B12 iPhone," I said, and then just now, sleeping JPG. She made a soft sound, more thoughtful than alarmed. "That's specific." "I declined the first one," I said. "They keep sending." "Turn AirDrop off," she suggested, like it was obvious. "Yeah," I said, because yes, that was obvious. And also because I hadn't done it yet, which was the point. If I turned it off, whatever this was would just be gone. A weird little blip in the day I'd never explain. My brain didn't like that. My brain wanted to open the box, even if it held something unpleasant. I didn't say any of that. I just swallowed and stared at the dark glass as another request popped up, the little spinning blue circle hunting for my response. "My name's Mara," she said, as if introducing herself would stabilize the situation. "Mara Larkin." I shifted my coffee to my other hand. "Evan," I said, "Evan Price." She glanced at my boarding pass peeking out of my phone case. "You on the Boston flight?" "Yeah," I said, delayed, mechanical. "Same," she said. "Of course." Mara's phone chimed softly. Not an AirDrop, something else. Maybe a calendar reminder. She ignored it. "Do you think it's someone you know?" "I don't know anyone here," I said, then paused. "I mean, no. Not that I'm aware of." That sounded less convincing than I intended, and Mara picked up on it. She didn't push, though. She just watched the gate area with the same quiet focus you see in people who commute a lot. Practiced observation without drama. A tall guy in a fleece vest walked by, dragging a rolling bag with one sticky wheel. A couple argued in whispers over a charging cord. Someone's FaceTime call leaked tinny laughter. Life went on. Mara nodded toward the chairs. If it's coming from B12 iPhone, they're probably in the seating zone. AirDrop range isn't huge. "I know," I said, and the admission came with a spike of irritation at myself. I worked in IT security, nothing glamorous, mostly compliance and audits. I lectured colleagues about basic hygiene. Yet here I was, letting curiosity lead me around by the nose like a dog. Mara took a sip from her water bottle. "You want to find out who it is?" I looked at her. "Do you?" She gave me a small shrug. "I don't love the idea of someone messing with people in public, and I've got time. And honestly, I'm nosy." That made me smile, despite myself. The phone buzzed again, like it was impatient with our conversation. AirDrop. Evan asleep from B12 iPhone. Mara saw my expression shift. Okay, she said, tone changing. That's your name. My stomach did something small and unhelpful. Not a cinematic lurch, just a tightening, like my hoodie drawstrings had been pulled. I didn't tell you my last name, I said automatically, then realized that wasn't the point. Mara's face stayed composed, but her posture changed, weight slightly forward, attention sharpened. How would they know your name? Boarding pass, I said, too fast. Maybe they saw it. I was holding my phone. Or I gestured vaguely, as if there were obvious ways strangers learned each other's names in airports. Mara's eyes flicked to the gate podium. There's also the display screens, she said. Sometimes they show lists. They don't show names, I said, and I knew they didn't because I'd checked earlier like I was looking for proof that the universe had assigned me a seat. My phone screen held the request like a hand held out in the dark. Mara lowered her voice. What if you accept it? Just see what it is. And if it's something gross, I whispered back. Then you delete it, she said, and you turn AirDrop off, or you show a gate agent. I stared at the accept button until my eyes started to blur around it. The rational thing was to shut it down, turn AirDrop to contacts only or off, and go back to being a tired guy with bad coffee waiting for a delayed flight. But the file names were too pointed, and if someone was doing this on purpose, there was a chance it wasn't random. Mara shifted closer to the window, angling so she could still see the gate. If you accept, she said, do it with me here. Don't do it alone in the bathroom or something. A laugh tried to escape me and failed halfway. That's good advice. She held up her phone. I can record your screen if you want, in case it disappears, or in case you need to show someone. My hands felt slightly damp around the coffee cup. The floor buffer had moved on, replaced by the rhythmic squeak of someone's sneakers on carpet. The announcer crackled again, apologizing for inconvenience in that meaningless way they always do. Mara met my eyes. Your call, Evan. And that was it, an actual choice, right there in the most ordinary place imaginable. Accept and look, or shut it down and let the weirdness evaporate. My thumb hovered over accept, and the gate behind us kept breathing, busy and indifferent, as if nothing in the world had changed at all. I did tap accept right away. I did the thing I always do when my brain senses danger. I tried to build a neat little box around it. Okay, I said, forcing my voice into that calm, professional tone I used at work when someone forwarded me a phishing email with 12 exclamation points. If I accept, it could be nothing. Could be a picture of anything. Or it could be something meant to freak me out. Or it could be malware. Mara watched me. AirDrop files can carry, what, a malicious profile. In theory, I said. It's not common. But I stopped. The word, but was doing too much. She angled her phone like she was ready to hit record. Then don't open it. Just accept so we can see the thumbnail in photos. Or accept and airplane mode immediately. I don't know. You're the security guy. The way she said it, half teasing, half trusting, made my chest tighten. Because yes, I was the security guy. I was supposed to be the person who didn't get surprised by basic stuff. I dragged down Control Center and switched my AirDrop to receiving off. Quests disappeared instantly, like a hand yanking a thread out of fabric. For a second, I felt relief. Then the phone buzzed with a normal notification sound. A text, unknown number, No contact photo. If you turn it off, you won't see the next one. No emoji. No punctuation beyond the apostrophe. Mara's mouth went slightly open. That came through as a text. I stared at the screen. My fingers went cold in a practical way, like when you touch a metal railing in winter. Yeah, that's not random, she said. I tried to rationalize it fast. Could be coincidence. Someone texting the wrong number. Mara gave me a look that wasn't dramatic, just flat. Evan, I exhaled, and the breath shook on the way out. Okay, not coincidence. Airport noise kept going. The clack of the kids' suitcase wheels, a zipper, a cough, someone's earbuds hissing. The normalcy around us made the text feel louder, like it was being shouted in a library. Mara moved a half step closer, lowering her voice. Do you want to tell someone, gate agent? And say what? I whispered. Someone airdropped me a file and then texted me. They'll tell me to block the number, and I don't know. Stop accepting things from strangers. She didn't argue. She understood that the real problem wasn't whether an airport employee would care. The real problem was the message had hopped from one channel to another. AirDrop was proximity. Texting meant the sender had my number. My phone vibrated again. Another text from the same unknown number. You're not in Boston yet. Don't get on. I felt Mara watching me read. Her face tightened. What does that mean? It means they want me to not board, I said, and it came out like a question. Mara's eyes flicked toward the gate podium where two agents were typing at keyboards, their faces washed in screen light. Maybe it's some scam. Like, they want you to miss your flight. Why? I said. Do they get? She didn't answer because neither of us had a clean, safe explanation. My phone buzzed again. Look up. Blue backpack. Yellow tag. I didn't move at first. My body went stubborn and heavy, like if I stayed still, the world would have to stay still with me. My brain tried to turn it into a game. Spot the blue backpack, haha. Someone's messing with you. But the text had that clipped certainty of someone watching in real time. Mara spoke softly, like you would to a dog that might bolt. Don't whip your head around, just scan. I did, slow, casual, like I was stretching my neck. 3 rows left, near the charging station. A blue backpack sat under a chair. Bright yellow luggage tag looped around the handle. There was a phone cable snaking out of it into the wall. Next to it, a man in a gray hoodie sat with his knees wide and his eyes on his lap. Could be his bag. Could be someone else. In airports, bags and bodies blur into temporary ownership. My next text arrived before I could decide whether to look away. That's not your bag, but it's on your flight. I swallowed. My throat felt dry in that particular way you get after a long day, when your mouth tastes faintly of coffee and recycled air. Mara's voice was barely audible. Is your name on the tag? I leaned my head slightly, trying to read it without looking obvious. The yellow tag was turned inward, not readable from here. My heart wasn't hammering. Not yet. It was doing something worse. Steady acceleration, like a car picking up speed, and you don't realize how fast you're going until you look down. Okay, I whispered. Okay, so someone wants me to believe there's a bag situation. Mara's jaw worked. Either they're warning you about something or they're setting you up. My private flaw, my inability to let things go, clicked into place like it had been waiting. Because now there was a tangible object, a specific point in space. Not just a weird photo file. A blue backpack with a yellow tag. Something I could walk toward and verify. And the time-sensitive part arrived like the universe had been waiting for the right cue. The overhead speaker crackled. Attention passengers on Flight 1827 to Boston. We are now boarding Group C, a line formed fast, people popping up like springs. The gate area shifted, chairs scraped, rolling bags thumped over seams in the carpet. Mara looked from the bag to the forming line to me. If that bag is a problem, and it's going on the plane, I know, I said, cutting her off. The word problem felt too small for what my brain was now painting. I forced myself to think procedurally. We should tell the gate agent. Mara nodded immediately. Yes, we started toward the podium, but the crowd thickened, funneling into the boarding lane. A family with 4 carry-ons drifted in front of us. Someone stepped sideways to take a call, blocking the path. The normal inconveniences of travel suddenly felt like deliberate obstacles. Another text buzzed. Don't tell them. He'll move it. 3 minutes. Mara heard the vibration, saw my face. What? I held the phone toward her, my thumb covering the number like that mattered. She read it and made a sharp exhale. I don't know, I said. But if you don't tell them, you're taking advice from the person doing this, she said. And if we do tell them and it's a prank, we look insane, I said, hating how much that mattered to me. And if it's not a prank, then we look insane for a different reason, she said, and her tone hardened. Evan, people are boarding. She was right. Group C was moving. The gray hoodie man near the blue backpack stood, stretching his shoulders like he'd been waiting for the call. He unplugged the cable from the wall with an absent tug. The blue backpack shifted as he grabbed it by the strap. My lungs tightened. World narrowed to that strap in his hand. Mara grabbed my sleeve. We need to do something. I should have walked straight to the gate agent and said, I'm getting texts about a bag. Let the professionals handle it. That was the correct move, the adult move, the move I would tell someone else to make. But the fear that had always lived quietly in the back of my mind, making a public mistake, being the guy who overreacts, the guy everyone watches and whispers about, rose up and put a hand on my shoulder. And right behind it came the other fear, the one that mattered more. The idea of sitting on a plane and realizing too late that I'd ignored a warning because I didn't want to look foolish. The gray hoodie man started walking toward the boarding lane, blue backpack swinging lightly, yellow tag flashing with each step. Mara's grip on my sleeve tightened. Evan, I know, I said. A final text buzzed, and my stomach sank before I even read it, like my body recognized the shape of bad news. If you let him board, you're in the photo next. Mara's eyes flicked from the screen to the man with the bag, then back to me. What does that mean? I don't know, I said, and for the first time my voice cracked. The man merged into the line. He was 10 feet from the scanner, then 8, then 6. The gate agent smiled at someone, oblivious, hand out for the next boarding pass. Mara leaned in, urgent. Choice. Now. Tell the agent and risk tipping off whoever was watching, or follow the man, keep quiet, and try to see where he takes the bag. My flaw did what it always did. It picked the option that promised answers. Come on, I said, and pulled Mara with me, not toward the podium, but toward the line, slipping into the flow of boarding passengers like we belonged there. Mara's eyes widened. Evan, I'm not letting that bag out of my sight, I whispered. We moved forward in the crowd, close enough now that I could smell the man's detergent, cheap, floral, and the faint sour note of sweat trapped under synthetic fabric. He didn't look back. He didn't hurry. He just boarded, as if nothing in the world had changed. And then the gate agent scanned his pass and waved him through the jet bridge. The crowd surged. The line advanced. Mara's voice was tight. "We're doing this," I nodded once, unable to speak. My phone buzzed again, but I didn't look. Not yet. We stepped up to the scanner. The gate agent reached for my boarding pass, and the overhead lights above gate B12 flickered once, twice, before the terminal speaker popped with a sharp, ugly burst of static, like something shorting out. Every head in the gate area turned for half a second, and in that half second, the gray hoodie man and the blue backpack disappeared down the jet bridge. The jet bridge swallowed us in a warm, recycled breath that smelled faintly of rubber mats and old coffee. We moved with the line, shoes thudding on the slightly springy floor, the walls narrowing our vision to a gray tube lit by buzzing fluorescent strips. The gray hoodie man was still ahead of us, maybe 15 people up, his blue backpack slung over one shoulder, the yellow tag flashing like a tiny warning flag every time he shifted. Mara leaned close to my ear. "We're boxed in now." "I know," I said, and my voice sounded wrong to me, too thin, stretched. That was the first failed attempt, though I didn't realize it yet, just following. Acting like proximity alone counted as control. The line stalled halfway down the jet bridge. Someone up ahead was struggling to fit a carry on into the overhead bin before even stepping onto the plane, blocking the flow. People sighed. A man behind us muttered something under his breath. The gray hoodie man stopped moving. I used the pause to do what I should have done earlier. I pulled my phone out and typed 911 without hitting call, just to see how it felt. My thumb hovered, useless. If I called now, what would I even say? "I'm on a jet bridge and someone texted me about a backpack," Mara noticed. "If you're going to do it," she whispered, "do it." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. Too many eyes. Wait. My pulse jumped. I scanned the people around us, families, business travelers, a woman rocking a baby against her shoulder. No one was looking at me. That somehow made it worse. Whoever was texting wasn't just nearby, they were watching behavior, reading the room. The line lurched forward again. We stepped onto the aircraft. The cabin was dimmer than the terminal, overhead lights set to that soft, artificial evening meant to trick your body into calm. The aisle felt narrow after the jet bridge, shoulders brushing, elbows bumping as people jockeyed for bin space. Row numbers glowed faintly above the seats. 18, 19, 20. The gray hoodie man turned left into the aisle, then stopped at row 22. He lifted the blue backpack, opened an overhead bin, and slid it inside with practiced ease. No fumbling, no hesitation. My stomach tightened. The bag was on. Mara whispered, "That's it." Attempt 2 formed itself in my head. Verify the bag. If I could see the tag, read a name, maybe this would all collapse into embarrassment and relief. I stepped forward as if I needed to stow my own bag and reached up, pretending to adjust my backpack strap. I craned my neck toward the overhead bin. The yellow tag swung free now, readable. Not a name, just a phone number. Handwritten, thick black marker, no area code. Mara saw it too. Her eyes widened just slightly. "That's not normal." "No," I said, "it's not." The gray hoodie man slid into his seat by the window, pulled out his phone, and put in earbuds. He didn't look back. He didn't watch us. That again felt worse than if he had. People kept boarding. The aisle filled behind us. A flight attendant gestured politely. "Sir, if you could keep moving." We had to retreat a step, pressed back into the flow. Attempt 2 inspection had given us information, but no leverage. Mara's hand brushed mine. "You're shaking." "I know," I said. My forearms felt tight, like I'd been clenching them without realizing. We reached our row 24, aisle and middle, and slid in. As soon as I sat, the offer of stillness backfired. My leg bounced. My shoulders ached from tension. Another buzz. "Good, you saw it." I stared at the message until the letters blurred. Mara angled her body toward me, shielding the screen. "He knows what you're doing," she said quietly. "Or someone does." The doors hadn't closed yet. A flight attendant stood near the front, making an announcement about overhead space. The engines were still silent. "Okay," Mara whispered. "Third option." We get up, tell a flight attendant quietly. "Security protocol. They can pause boarding." "And if the texter is watching," I said. "If that tips them off." "Evan," she said, and there was steel in it now. "We are already tipped off." She was right. And still, my fear of escalation, the messy, public kind, wrapped around my ribs. I stood anyway. My knees complained immediately, stiff from the sudden movement. The aisle was still crowded, but thinning. I stepped toward the rear galley where a flight attendant was arranging cups. "Excuse me," I said, keeping my voice low. "I need to report something odd." She looked up, polite smile ready. "Of course, sir." I opened my mouth and my phone buzzed again. "If you say it out loud, the bag isn't the problem anymore." I froze. The attendant's smile wavered. "Sir," Mara stepped up beside me. A loud bang echoed from the front of the plane. Several people yelped. A baby started crying. My heart slammed so hard it hurt. The flight attendant flinched, then relaxed almost immediately. "Overhead bin," she said, already moving forward. Someone slammed it. The tension didn't drain from me, though. The timing was too clean, too perfect. Misdirection. That's what it was. Just physics and impatience. But my body didn't care. My palms were slick. My throat burned. The attendant glanced back. "What was it you needed, sir?" I swallowed. This was the point. Say it now or lose the nerve. "There's a bag in the overhead," I said. "Row 22. Blue backpack with a yellow tag. I've been receiving messages about it." Her expression shifted not to alarm, but to something procedural. "Messages how?" "Texts. AirDrop earlier," I note, aware of how insane it sounded. She nodded slowly. "Okay, let's have you take your seat for a moment." My stomach dropped. "No, we're about to close the door," she said, still calm. "I'll notify the lead, but you need to be seated." That was attempt 3, authority. And it failed, not because she didn't believe me, but because procedure moved slower than threat. We slid back into our seats. The aisle cleared. The door thumped shut with a finality that echoed in my bones. The safety demo lights flicked on. Mara leaned in, her voice barely more than breath. "We're locked in now." I nodded, jaw tight. The plane pushed back from the gate. The floor vibrated under my feet. Outside, through the tiny oval window, the terminal began to slide away. My phone buzzed one more time. Too late to stop it. Not too late to fix it. "What does that even mean?" Mara whispered. I didn't answer. My attention had snagged on something else. The gray hoodie man was standing. He stepped into the aisle, blue backpack now slung in front of him, clutched to his chest. A flight attendant near the front looked up sharply. "Sir, please take your seat," she said. He didn't respond. He just stood there, breathing fast enough that I could see his shoulders rise and fall from rows back. People started murmuring. Someone laughed nervously. This was it, my brain insisted. The nightmare scenario finally breaking cover. Then the man lurched sideways and dropped into the aisle seat across from us, head snapping forward. The backpack hit the floor with a dull thud. The murmurs rose into alarm. "He fainted," someone said. A flight attendant rushed over. Sir, can you hear me?" Another attendant appeared with a medical kit. "Does anyone have medical training?" The explanation was immediate and crushing in its ordinariness. A diabetic episode, a panic attack, dehydration, something human and fragile, misdirection again. My heart had sprinted ahead of reality, but the backpack was on the floor now, close enough that I could see the zipper wasn't fully closed. Mara's hand gripped my forearm. "Evan, don't." Inside the bag, visible through the gap, was a phone. Not a bomb, not wires, just a phone, screen lit. On the screen, a photo, me, curled on my side in my own bed. Eyes closed, taken from above. The same bedding, the same hoodie, sleeping. The plane started to roll, and whatever line I thought existed between watching and being watched vanished completely. The aisle filled fast. Flight attendants knelt around the gray hoodie man, voices low and efficient. Someone pressed the call button. Someone else stood half up, craning to see, then sat back down when an attendant shot them a look. I couldn't stop staring at the phone in the open backpack. The screen dimmed, then lit again, as if nudged awake. My own face stared back at me from my own bed, mouth slightly open, hair mashed to one side. The angle was wrong, too high, too close to the wall. Not a doorway shot, not across the room. From above, Mara followed my gaze. Her breath hitched, quick and involuntary. "Evan, I know," I said. My voice sounded like it was coming from somewhere behind me. The gray hoodie man groaned. His eyes fluttered open. He looked confused, panicked, like a person surfacing from underwater. "Sir," an attendant said gently, "you fainted. Try not to move." His eyes slid to the backpack on the floor. His hand twitched toward it. I moved before I finished deciding to. I stepped into the aisle, bent, and grabbed the bag by the strap. "Sir," an attendant barked. The man's hand clamped around my wrist. His grip was weak but desperate. "Don't," he croaked. "I don't, please." My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't look. Mara was on her feet now too, her shoulder braced against the seat in front of us. "Evan," she said, urgent. "What are you doing?" "Finding out," I said. The plane lurched slightly as the tug connected. The engines whined louder. We were moving. I yanked my wrist free. The man's fingers slipped, sweaty and trembling. He slumped back into the seat, breathing hard. An attendant reached for the bag. "Sir, put that down." "I need 1 second," I said, louder than I meant to. Heads turned, murmurs rose. I dropped into the empty aisle seat across from mine and pulled the zipper the rest of the way open. Inside, clothes folded tight, cheap, new, a charger brick, a power bank, and the phone. I picked it up. Locked screen, no notifications, just the photo. My phone buzzed again. I pulled it out, hands shaking now. "You have it, good." I typed back before I could stop myself. "Who are you?" 3 dots appeared immediately, then stopped, then started again. The flight attendant put a hand on my shoulder. "Sir, I need you to give me the bag." "Please," I said, not to her, to the phone, to whoever was behind it. "Please." The dots vanished. A new message came through. "Check the contact list." I hesitated, then swiped the screen. No passcode. The phone opened. My stomach dropped. The contacts list wasn't long. No names like mom or work. Just addresses, street names, apartment numbers. One was mine, below it dozens more. Mara leaned in, reading over my shoulder. Her face went pale. These are homes. Targets, I said. The gray hoodie man let out a broken sound, half sob, half laugh. I told him I couldn't, he gasped. I told him I didn't want to be part of it. Who? I snapped, spinning toward him. He squeezed his eyes shut. I don't know his name. He pays. He gives instructions. I just deliver. Deliver what? Mara demanded. The man shook his head, tears leaking out now. Phones. I don't know what's on them, I swear. My phone buzzed again, sharp and insistent. If you give it to them, the list doesn't disappear. I felt boxed in on all sides. The attendants, the passengers, the accelerating plane, the reality that this wasn't just about me anymore. What do you want? I typed. My thumbs felt numb. A pause. Long enough that the cabin noise swelled back in engine pitch. A baby crying, someone whispering a prayer. Then, proof you won't run. Mara grabbed my arm. Evan, don't, I swallowed. My heart felt too big for my chest. What kind of proof? The response came instantly. Unlock your phone. Open photos, I froze. Mara stared at me. No, absolutely not. I knew what he meant. If he could see my phone, see what I was doing, then he was closer than the plane, closer than the airport. I can't, I typed. 3 dots. Then you're not the right person. My phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't a text. It was an AirDrop request. From seat 24A, my seat. Mara sucked in a breath. He's here. Every muscle in my body went tight. I scanned the cabin, suddenly aware of how many people were within 10 feet of me. A man 2 rows up, adjusting his glasses. A woman across the aisle, pretending not to stare. The gray hoodie man slumped and shaking. Decline it, Mara whispered. Evan, decline it. But I already knew what it was. I could feel it, like a weight behind my eyes. I accepted. The photo opened automatically. It was me, standing in the aisle right now, taken from behind. The angle was low, disguised, cropped tight enough that it could have been anyone with a phone held at chest height. My vision tunneled. Mara's nails dug into my arm. Don't turn around, she said fiercely. Don't. A man behind us stood abruptly. Hey, he said, voice sharp. What's going on up there? The flight attendant raised her voice. Sir, please remain seated. My phone buzzed again. Say it out loud. My mouth was dry. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might pass out like the courier had. Say what? I whispered. That you see me. The plane picked up speed. The runway lights streaked past the windows. This was it. The point of no return had already passed. I just hadn't felt it until now. I stood. The cabin erupted. Sir, sit down. Mara stood with me, one hand still gripping my sleeve like an anchor. I see you, I said, my voice shaking, but loud enough to carry. I see you. Silence snapped into place, brittle and electric. Then a man 3 rows back laughed. Too loud, wrong. You don't see anything, he said, standing slowly. He was middle-aged, clean-cut, the kind of face that vanished the moment you looked away. Sit down before you get someone hurt. My phone buzzed. Wrong one. The laughing man's smile faltered. Across the aisle, a woman lowered her phone too slowly. Her face was flushed, eyes bright with something like excitement or panic. She met my gaze and didn't look away. Mara saw it too. Her, she said. The woman bolted. She shoved past a passenger, slammed into an attendant, and ran for the front of the plane just as the engines roared louder. People screamed. Someone fell. The cabin tilted slightly as the plane accelerated. A flight attendant lunged, missed, and went down hard, hitting the galley wall with a sickening crack. The woman yanked open a galley compartment, fingers scrabbling. She wasn't going for a door, just trying to destroy something. The phone. I ran. My shoulder slammed into a seatback. Pain shot down my arm. I barely felt it. I grabbed her wrist as she raised the phone and twisted hard, the way my dad once taught me as a kid, just in case. She screamed. The phone clattered to the floor. An attendant tackled her from the side. Another piled on. The woman sobbed, incoherent, thrashing. The plane lurched, then lifted. I hit my knees, breath heaving, ears popping as the ground fell away. My phone buzzed one last time. Good choice. See you later, Evan. Then the number went dead. The phone from the backpack lay cracked on the floor, screen dark. The list, whatever it was gone. The plane climbed into the night, full of shaken people, and one bleeding flight attendant, and one courier crying quietly into his hands. Mara knelt beside me, her face pale, eyes wet. You're hurt. I looked down. Blood soaked the knee of my jeans. I'm okay, I said automatically. I wasn't sure if that was true. The plane leveled off somewhere over the dark quilt of New England, the engines settling into a steady, almost soothing roar that felt obscene given what had just happened. They taped my knee with quick, practiced hands. The flight attendant, her name was Jessa, I learned later sat pale and silent in the jump seat across the aisle with an ice pack pressed to her temple. Someone had wrapped her head in gauze that was already stippled with red. The courier in the gray hoodie had been moved to a row near the back, watched by 2 attendants, and a man who quietly identified himself as an off-duty EMT. The woman who'd run had been zip-tied with spare restraints, her phone in pieces in a sealed evidence bag. No one cheered. No one clapped. People avoided looking at me like I'd broken a rule they hadn't known existed. Mara stayed with me through all of it. She held my backpack when they took my phone to photograph it, nodded at the crew when they asked if she'd witnessed anything, pressed a cup of water into my hands when I started shaking again. We didn't talk much. Words felt like they'd been used up. When the captain came on the intercom, his voice was calm in that practiced way. Ladies and gentlemen, we had a medical situation on board. Everything is under control. We'll be landing shortly, where local authorities will meet the aircraft. Local authorities meant flashing lights at the gate, uniformed figures with neutral faces. It meant standing in the aisle while passengers filed past, eyes flicking to my knee, to Mara's tight mouth, to the zip-tied woman who stared at the floor like it might open. On the jet bridge, the smell of rubber mats came back, grounding and awful. A police officer with a Boston accent took my statement while another spoke quietly to the courier. I heard the courier say, I didn't know again and again until the words lost meaning. The officer asked me to describe the texts. I did. He asked me to describe the photo. I did that too, my voice flattening the details into something manageable. They took my phone for a while. They gave it back with a card and a case number. Asked if I wanted to press charges. I said I didn't know. They nodded like that was an acceptable answer. At baggage claim, everything felt wrong in a softer way. The carousel hummed. Suitcases thumped into view. People laughed with relief that they'd made it, that nothing in their world had actually changed. Mara leaned against a pillar and closed her eyes. Do you want me to stay? She asked, opening them again. I can. I surprised myself by saying yes. At the hospital, they cleaned my knee properly. It needed stitches 5, neat and white under the lights. The doctor asked how it happened. I said I fell. He accepted that without curiosity. Jessa got a CT scan and a concussion diagnosis and a ride home. The EMT shook my hand before he left, squeezing once like he was sealing something. Mara sat in a plastic chair, scrolling through her phone without really seeing it. When they finally let me go, it was almost morning. We took a cab. The city looked like itself, brick and glass, and early joggers moving with purpose. Ordinary, cracked sidewalks. A bakery opening its doors, the smell of yeast and sugar briefly sweetening the air. At my place, I stood in the doorway longer than necessary. The lock looked the same. The hallway smelled like my neighbor's curry. My bed was made the way I'd left it. "Do you want me to check?" Mara asked. I nodded. She walked through the apartment with careful steps, opening the bathroom cabinet, the closet, the window by the fire escape. Nothing was out of place. No footprints, no hidden cameras, no sign that anyone had been there. Still, I slept on the couch that morning. When I woke up, the light had shifted and Mara was gone. A note on the counter in careful handwriting. "Text me. Eat something." The days after fell into a pattern I didn't choose. Interviews, emails, a detective who called and said they were following leads, that the woman had been charged, that the courier was cooperating. They couldn't say more. My job told me to take time. I said I would. I didn't. I changed my locks. I bought a small camera for the front door and another for the living room. I turned AirDrop off and left it off. I slept badly. When I did sleep, I woke up convinced I could hear someone breathing in the room, then embarrassed by myself when there was. Mara checked in. We got coffee once. We talked around it, then finally through it, the way you do when pretending is more exhausting than honesty. She admitted she jumped every time her phone buzzed on the flight home. I admitted I'd been replaying the moment I grabbed the bag, wondering how many different ways it could have gone. "Do you regret it?" she asked. I thought about the photo, the addresses, the way the plane had lifted while everything I knew tipped. "No," I said. "I regret that it worked." The investigation moved on without me. That was the strangest part, how quickly it became paperwork, how the shape of it smoothed. The woman pled down. The courier testified. The list was gone, unrecoverable. That was what they told me. That was supposed to be the relief. Weeks later, I found myself back in an airport, a different gate, a different city. I sat with my backpack between my ankles and watched a floor buffer trace lazy arcs across the carpet. The sound still crawled under my skin, but I breathed through it. My phone buzzed. Just a calendar reminder this time. Lunch. I let out a laugh that was half a wince. I checked my settings anyway. AirDrop off. As boarding started, I stood and joined the line. People shuffled forward. A kid dragged a suitcase over the same 2 tiles again and again. Nothing happened. On the plane, I took the window seat. I watched the wing flex against the sky and tried to focus on that, on physics, on the boring miracle of it. After we leveled off, I pulled my phone out to text Mara that I'd landed safely. There was a notification badge on photos. One new image. My heart stuttered, then steadied. Probably a delayed sync. A screenshot I'd forgotten. I opened it. It was a picture of my front door, taken from the hallway, the new lock gleaming. The time stamp from last night. No message. No sender. Just the ordinary rectangle of my life, captured and waiting. I closed the app. I put the phone face down on the tray table. Outside, the clouds slid past, endless and impersonal, and the engine kept its even, comforting song. I breathed, and then I kept breathing, because stopping didn't feel like an option anymore. That's tonight's story. If it gives you chills, make sure to like, subscribe to Mia Horror Stories, and tap the bell so you never miss what's coming next. And if you're still brave enough, there are more dark tales waiting for you right here on the channel. Go watch another if you dare.